Yo, so the YSL trial is not over. Now it's interesting because today, the Georgia Supreme Court just handed down two major rulings on an appeal for Lil Rod and Damone Blalock. And is it safe to say Fulton County is not playing no games, or was this just retaliation for what happened on that first case? Man. If you're new, make sure y'all hit that notification bell, that like, share, comment, and subscribe. Grab a seat, we finna dig deep. What's up, YouTube family, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your host, Jay, and man, today we got a major development in this YSL RICO trial. Now, it is official. Lil Rod and Damone Blalock will not be getting out anytime soon. As I said, the Georgia Supreme Court handed down this ruling where they actually upheld the actual convictions from what was actually introduced in the YSL trial. Before we jump straight into what happened, y'all make sure y'all tap that notification bell, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and tap that like button. Whether you're a fan of the case, the state, or all of the above, tap the like button to help the channel continue to grow. What's y'all know the vibes? Grab a seat. We finna dig deep.
15-year-old boy shot and killed this morning at a Southwest Atlanta apartment complex. The killer or killers still on the run this evening. Our Nick Sturdivant has more on the key evidence investigators are focusing on.
People that live at this apartment complex on Mount Zion Road in Atlanta tell us they were surprised to wake up to flashing lights and crime tape early Saturday morning, and more surprised to find out what officers found.
They canvassed the area and located a juvenile male deceased inside of a vehicle with a gunshot wound to the head.
Police say that just before 5 a.m., they got a call about shots fired here. The person they found shot dead was a 15-year-old boy. Police say he was inside of a stolen blue Dodge Charger. They think it could have been gang-related because investigators have identified the teen as a known gang member. Officers say he was wearing an ankle monitor when they found him.
At this point, we believe that there were additional people with the victim at the time of the shooting.
People that live here tell us they heard gunshots, while some say they didn't at all. They also told us that over the years, the complex they now call the Crystal Apartments has had its problems with gang activity and other crimes. And hours after the shooting, investigators spent the morning knocking on doors, trying to find answers.
Tonight, a candlelight vigil for a 15-year-old shot and killed at an apartment complex in Southwest Atlanta early Saturday morning. Ashley Johnson joins us live from Mosley Park, where family and friends are remembering him.
Faith, police say 15-year-old Jamari Holmes was a known gang member, but family and friends say this vigil shines light on the loving person they say he truly was. Loved ones clung to each other, mourning the loss of Jamari Holmes. Police say Holmes was found shot in the head inside a stolen Dodge Charger at the Mount Zion apartments. They say at the time he had on an ankle bracelet and believe his death was in connection with past criminal activity. But his mother says her son overall was a really good kid.
He was loving, he loved his brothers, loved his family, would give you the shirt off of his back. It's just senseless that my baby was taken away. He's a baby. My baby's he's only been 15, 2 weeks.
And his mother tells me that her son was in the process of turning his life around, getting good grades in school. She says he leaves behind a very large family with 15 siblings. Faith?
Now, before we dig deep into this actual Supreme Court ruling, let's go back to the YSL trial and actually see how we got to this point. Let's dig.
Promise you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No, ma'am.
With respect to indictment 22 SC 183572, how do you plead to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act?
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with a full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you may have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have 4 years from today's date to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness and constitutionality of this guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you also understand that you have 30 days in which to appeal your conviction based on your plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you also understand that you have until the end of this term of court to file a motion seeking to withdraw your guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if this case were to proceed and continue with trial, Your Honor, evidence has shown and will further show that Mr. Ryan conspired with others to participate in the Young Slime Life gang through a pattern of racketeering activity and multiple defendants and unindicted co-conspirators have committed overt acts to further this conspiracy, including drug sales, aggravated assault, and murder, also including social media posts asserting the violent nature and dominance of Young Slime Life, aka YSL. Your Honor, the court has been present for evidence regarding the February 23rd, 2019 homicide of Mr. Jamari Holmes, in which Mr. Ryan and YSL co-conspirator Damone Blalock lured both Jamari Holmes, Bernard Mitchell, and Rodney Uten to an apartment at 50 Mount Zion Road, which is in the Cleveland Avenue area. The evidence came out that during the course of that incident that Mr. Ryan, along with Mr. Blalock, emerged from the apartment complex shooting at the vehicle which Mr. Holmes, Mr. Uten, and Mr. Mitchell were in, shooting Mr. Holmes in the head. After this incident, a few hours later, Mr. Ryan is seen posting on social media, on a public social media post, saying bet YSL makes the news. Right, there has been other social media posts in which Mr. Ryan has promoted or enhanced the reputation of YSL. Your Honor, the state intended to show further evidence that once Mr. Ryan was convicted of the homicide of Mr. Holmes while in prison, he continued to enhance the reputation, power, and territory of YSL, specifically when YSL co-conspirator and co-defendant Christian Eppinger was given a bond for shooting at an Atlanta police officer. Mr. Ryan, while on a contraband phone in prison, posted on his social media account, he flashed the YSL sign and stated, "We're coming to get you. YSL shit, free my N-word bris, F the DA, the gangway, we catching bonds on this shit." Your Honor, this is the evidence that the state would have intended to show if we would have continued with trial. Given the current status, Your Honor, we've made an offer to Mr. Ryan for this commuted time served offers from our concurrent with his current conviction, Your Honor. And I can approach with the documentation.
You may.
So as you just heard, Lil Rod was definitely convicted of several different offenses when it came to this YSL trial. The ironic thing is he was actually already facing a life sentence, but was still indicted when it came to this case. Now, in my personal opinion, I said the entire time when the YSL trial was going that he was actually just added to this case just to enhance the point that the prosecution attempted to prove when it came to YSL versus state. And as you see, it was reported that there was more than one person that was involved with this actual incident that caused this young man to lose his life. Now, we all heard in the YSL trial that the initial conviction was actually up for appeal. But today, the Georgia Supreme Court handed down its ruling. Let's dig. So as you see, filed here today, January 28, 2025, the actual appeal decision. Appealers Damone Blalock and Rodalius Ryan Jr. were convicted of the malice demise of Jamari Holmes, the aggravated assaults of 2 other individuals, and other related crimes. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Let's dig. Now here is where it gets interesting. The information that the actual Supreme Court used to actually lead them to their decision. Now, as you see, finally, we consider whether the combined prejudicial effect of the trial's counsel assumed deficiencies warrants a new trial, meaning that they honestly don't feel that anything that was presented warrants a new trial, but they took it into consideration. They listed the cases that they used with their review. In our review of the appellant's claim, we assume that the counsel were deficient for failing to review and introduce into evidence Mitchell's 2 Instagram messages and failing to object to each. So, ask yourself this, even had they objected, would it have really made a difference? Or were these actual defendants already convicted before they made this appeal decision? Let's dig. Then it goes to say, the prosecutor's comments on silence and closing argument, as discussed in Divisions 2B and C. Counsel's assumed failures are unlikely to have affected the outcome of the trial, and we do not see that the prejudice from these 2 deficiencies would accumulate in any way to cast doubt on the verdict. Then they list the case law. Given the relatively minor impact of the counsel's assumed errors, as you see right there, they've minimized it down, saying what? That the errors were not exactly strong enough for them to actually come in with this appeal. So did the defense come in with the wrong angle? Let's dig. Given the relatively minor impact of the counsel's assumed errors, the appellant, Lil Rod, has not shown that the cumulative prejudice from those assumed errors likely affected the outcome of his trial. This claim, therefore, fails. Judge affirmed, all justices agree. Did the defense actually drop the ball and go in with the wrong angle, or did the state get it right? Let's dig. So let's dig. Now, this whole Lil Rod situation itself is definitely sad. Now, for him to be so young, his life, definitely he chose the street, and look what he just got. Now, even more sad, the family that was actually impacted with the demise of another 15-year-old that was taken from his family. Man, another sad situation, but again, it goes to show, when you choose the streets, undecided and misguided as a youth, these are the end results. Jail or your life. Now, look at the decision that Lil Rod just got that was handed down from the Supreme Court. They honestly believe that he is responsible. So not only do they believe that Lil Rod is responsible for taking this life, but the courts actually just reversed their favor and took another life. 2 mothers without their sons. Let that sink in. So I asked, did the state actually present enough evidence for this conviction to stand? Because the Supreme Court actually saw no reason to overturn their sentences, meaning that their previous convictions will stand and they will remain locked up. But remember at the end of the trial when he was taking his plea, the defense agreed part of his deal was that they were just going to run his sentences concurrent. Let that sink in. So yeah, the YSL defendants, they got pleas and probation. As you see, some just got life sentences. So ask yourself this, who really won in the end? So y'all see it? Sad, man. Now, this young man's life is thrown away. Another man's life taken. The system wins again. So who really won in the end? Now, I do want to ask y'all this. Do y'all feel like the state actually presented enough evidence and information from what we seen in the actual trial to say that Lil Rod actually was guilty? Or was this just the state actually retaliating from the actual information and the way that the previous trial ended? My personal opinion, I feel like the state did have a lot of strong evidence that kind of synced and tied these defendants to this, but at the same time, did they not beat the first time? But again, 2 times around on the same trial with an appeal, left in the hands of the same people that were over the initial trial, no way possible, in my personal opinion. So, in the game of chess, as you see, the king survived, but some of the pieces just happened to fall in place in order for the king to escape. Just my personal opinion. Y'all jump in the comments, let me know y'all's thoughts. Man, we definitely not done. Lil Rod, the mother that lost her son with this situation. Lil Rod's mom, choosing the streets. You think it was worth it? You think if he could roll back the hands of time, would he stand on business or would he actually reverse his decision? As always, remember, the greater the height, the greater the weight. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, tap that notification bell so you won't miss a drop. And definitely tap that like button. As I said, whether you're a fan of the case, the state, or all of the above, tap the like button to help the channel continue to grow. This case goes to show the life you save could be your very own. As always, I'm your host, Jay.